artists today are in a great position to do that if you have the work ethic and if you have the patience, because there's more revenue streams available to artists today than there ever have been, right? You have, subscriptions, you got publishing, you got merch, I mean, there's so much stuff. You can get on OnlyFans, you can do Cameo, you can sell merch through Printify for damn near nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can drop ship merch. There's so many different ways to you make money on YouTube, make money on Twitch, like make money on Instagram, brand deals. Like there's so many ways if you're able to build an audience that you can monetize that. And I think now is the best time ever to be a creator, if you ask me, because of that. That's probably the top reason to me.
I don't disagree with you on that, because I think, but it's like it takes work.
Yeah, it's hard. No, for sure, it's hard. It doesn't mean that it's easier.
No.
But you can get a lot more creative. You have a lot more tools.
Yeah.
You have the chance to get things going a lot quicker if things hit.
No, listen, man, I appreciate you for coming on to the Manager's Playbook, sir. Dame Ritter, thank you so much, man.
Hey, my pleasure.
This is dope. This is dope.
Yeah.
I mean, you have an incredible legacy. I heard you say this in another place before, and with all due respect, I'm gonna give you your fucking flowers.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, because in my opinion, you had one of the biggest indie record labels of the 2010s. And I know you say that it could have been way bigger, but I feel but cool. But like, it was still amazing to see that, because you guys definitely had a moment, and there was a lot of people that were getting put onto game to what you guys were doing, and was like a lot of different strategies that you were doing. I don't think a lot of people were kind of looking at it the way that you guys were, right?
Yeah. No, it was a wild ride. I think we were one of the first labels to really like leverage social media heavy.
Absolutely. And the label we're talking about is Funk Volume.
Yes.
Yeah. And you co-founded it with Hopsin.
Yes.
And you were the CEO of that label.
Yep.
Yeah. So you really leveraged social media. So continue there, yeah.
So at the time, MySpace still existed, and like Facebook was just coming into like being a dominant presence. And I realized that like a lot of people were moving over to Facebook. And it took some convincing, because MySpace it was more fun for artists, right? Because you could add your music, you could add your top friends, you could skin it however you wanted to skin it. And then I'm over here saying, nah, we need to be on Facebook. And it's just blue and white. It's boring.
Right.
So it took some convincing to get more creative folks over to Facebook, but I knew that's where the people were.
How?
Just seeing the numbers, just seeing how fast it was growing, seeing the engagement, how many people. My friends started to jump on it.
Yeah.
And I just knew that, especially when there's a new social media platform that you think is gonna be relevant, you always want to be a first mover, right? Because now that the platforms are more mature, it's harder to build a fan base on there. The reach gets lower. They start playing more games. In the beginning, it's a little bit more free, so because they want people on the platform, so they allow more reach, they allow more engagement. So we really took advantage of that. Took advantage of the Facebook groups. We started an internet street team on Facebook where we would designate some of our top fans to run the different Facebook groups. So just imagine we had like Funk Volume LA, Funk Volume Cincinnati, Funk Volume, Pittsburgh, just tons of cities. So when
all these different Facebook groups.
Yeah, all these different Facebook groups. So when we put out a message, I would just email all the street team leads, internet street team leads, and they would post it in their respective groups so that we would get, a lot more reach. And then, Hop had a big page. My brother had a big page. I managed the Funk Volume page.
Right.
So that's ultimately how we got on the XXL cover, because we would always get the fan vote. It's like
spot.
Yeah, because you can't really compete with that machine. Like, you'd have to be a pretty big independent artist to compete with as many pages as we had, the internet street team, the email list. Like, you'd have to be a pretty significant,
And you had all that.
Yeah, so we were pretty well organized when it came to, to be able to get messages out and push all those buttons and just get it out on socials like that.
But let me even take a step back. Like, how did you identify to build a business like that? Because from my understanding, you wasn't in the music business. You were at Deloitte.
Yeah. I got laid off. And then I was trying to figure out what the next step was.
Yeah.
My little brother was going to UC Irvine. My little brother is Swizz, so he was one of the artists on the label.
Right.
He was going to UC Irvine. He said he wanted to drop out and do music because he was like bouncing around from major to major. Wasn't really dedicated to school. So I was like, man, if you really want to do this, I can help you out. You know, since I got the time, I just got laid off. Hop was equally as frustrated, but he was signed to Ruthless Records at the time. My brother and Hopsin went to high school together. So that's how I got introduced to him. They said they wanted to start a label.
Ruthless, like
Ruthless Records.
Ruthless.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That was still active at that time?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really. Yeah, that was part of the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it wasn't. He was signed there, but they didn't really know what to do with him, so they weren't doing much.
And it was Jerry Heller that.
No, it was Eazy-E's wife.
Eazy-E's wife. Okay.
Yeah, Tamika.
Okay, got you.
Yep. So we eventually got him out of his deal, and just started rocking independently. But yeah, just trying to figure it out. I didn't know anybody. I knew a frat brother of mine introduced me to an artist down here named Propaganda.
Okay.
More so in like the Christian space.
Okay.
But super dope artist, and I would like turn to him to see whatever gems he could drop, you know, to kind of figure this out. But most of the stuff we just kind of figured out on our own.
Oh, interesting. So he played like a little bit like of a mentor kind of.
Yeah, he definitely gave me some gems, but he was literally the only person that I could turn to because I didn't think I was going into music.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't have any connections, and I went to business school. I went to Stanford, but there's not that many people or any people I don't think that go into music from Stanford.
No, with an MBA now.
Yeah, they're doing, you know, VC funds, private equity, consulting, starting their own businesses. We don't have too many people that go into music. Maybe if I would have went to USC or something like that, it would have been a different story.
Sure.
But yeah, so I didn't have any connections really.
And you never even thought about getting into the music business.
Nah,
that's the other thing,
it was
right?
it wasn't a passion of mine. I literally just wanted to help my brother. That's how I started.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same. Like I started in film. So that's where I like just kind of made my bones is to do music video production back when it mattered in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I always loved the music business. And so then I ended up in like 2015 diversifying. I used to be an EP over at co-founding this production company called Mad Rock, but then me and Jessie Reyes connected, and then I started managing her in 2015 full time. Gave my EP position away to somebody else, but I knew that I loved music. And while I was doing the music video stuff, I kind of started to like feel I connected more with people in the music business than I did, like the artists and the managers. And
where did the love come from? Like, how did you love the business? How did you like see the business and then decide that, or did you make music coming up?
Hell no. I tried to do twice. I tried to use Reason 3 times. 1 time sober, 1 time high, 1 time drunk. All fails. I couldn't produce shit. So I was always around. I mean, like when we were in high school, I had my boys. We'd go and skip school or skip class and smoke a little something and freestyle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I always loved that, and I just loved the art form of it and entertainment. But I don't know where the passion came from, to be honest with you. But I just always enjoyed it. And then, but I also am like pretty obsessive. So when I get into something, I like deep dive into something, and I really try and figure out everything about it. Are you similar in that way as well? Because
for sure. I mean, it definitely was a challenge, and I wanted to figure it out. I knew I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have the idea of my own to like start. I didn't have an idea yet. So that's why I went into consulting. I felt like it would, allow me to get involved with different businesses, interact with senior management, work on some complex problems. But yeah, so I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have the idea that I wanted to jump ship from the corporate world and start myself just yet.
To all my artists, managers, and labels, how are you making sure your artists' biggest supporters actually hear about new releases, tours, and merch drops? Because if you're still relying on social media or basic text and email services to do the heavy lifting, you're leaving money on the table, and I need to tell you about Forever Fan. Forever Fan is a modern CRM built specifically for the music industry. Not only does it let you communicate directly with fans via text and email, its analytics and automation tools let you segment fans, track engagement, and optimize your campaigns to send the right fans the right messages at the right time. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know firsthand that there's a million things to keep up with when managing an artist's career, especially when you're releasing music or about to hit the road on a tour. So the fact that Forever Fan alleviates pressure by making sure valuable data and fan engagement opportunities don't slip through the cracks. It is an absolute game changer. That's why Forever Fan is already being used for rising artists, established acts with over 10 million monthly listeners, and everything in between. I even use it myself because you and I both know fan data is gold in today's market. But what you do with it after you have it is what really matters. So if you want to sell more tickets and merch, push more streams, and drive real fan loyalty, Forever Fan should be your top priority to check out. Visit foreverfanmusic.com today. Now let's get back to the pod. When you were in the corporate world, you were doing consulting.
Yeah, management consulting.
What's some of the, if you don't mind me asking, what's some of like the strategy that you would be advising in Fortune 500 companies, I guess?
Yeah. So, I mean, every project's different. So at that time...
See, this is a music business podcast, and out here I'm talking about corporate
at
world,
that
bro.
time, at that time, with the economy the way it was, there was a lot of like cost-cutting initiatives at these big companies.
Financial crisis, 08, 07?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of companies wanted to cut costs. So, you know, it's not always sexy stuff. So you might go into a company and, you know, they need to reduce their indirect spend. So you do, you know, you see what they're spending, see where they can cut. It's not much different than if you were at the crib and you were like, okay, I got all these subscriptions.
Right.
You know, I could cut Hulu, I could cut, you know, Netflix. It's basically the same thing, but just on a much larger. You got
I'll pay the $5.99 for the advertising versus $20.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like that, but most of these companies dealing with millions of dollars.
Gotcha.
But it's essentially the same exercise.
And so you were able to apply that to essentially.
Yeah. So but consultants can come in. It's not just cost cutting. I mean, they bring management consultants in for a number of different reasons. Let's just say like Coke wasn't in Brazil yet, and the company and Coke wanted to decide like, oh, should we introduce Coke to Brazil? You might bring in consultants to do the research and figure out if you should introduce Coke to Brazil, how you should do it. You know, there's all different types of problems that you can bring in consultants to solve. So yeah, it was cool.
And you were across all that?
Yeah.
Consult.
So I did a couple projects in financial service because before business school I worked for Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs. So they threw me on some financial services companies.
It's absolutely 100% the path to music.
Yeah, not at all. It gave me structure just on how to think about problems.
Okay.
I feel like I can walk into any industry and figure out, just ask the right questions, do the research, and that's ultimately what I did in music. Just kind of asked a lot of questions, and if I wasn't happy with the answer, I was like, all right, we ain't doing it that way then. Like if you tell me the only reason that we do it this way is because it's always been done this way.
Standard practice, you're not doing it.
Nah, we gonna figure out another way.
Same. That's what I was telling you. I think people like when it comes to negotiations, they might get annoyed with me because I'm not going with the status quo. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, you have to. There's a lawyer who was asked before, a friend of mine, and he was like, the rep you have, Ruiz, is that if you don't understand something and you can't explain it to him, he's gonna take you to task. Because I just need, you got to make it make sense to me. Yeah. It can't be just for the sake of, well, this is how it's been done for X amount of years.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
So, but to me, it's very simple. It's really just, you got to be able to build a community. You got to be able to get fans. And that's what, social media allowed us to do. So we just got to it. Everything we did was to, get in front of new fans or allow our existing fans to get to know them better. Mm-hmm. So it was what we were trying to do, and what artists still need to do today is still the same.
So let me ask, today, 2025, an artist and their friend who might be their manager, let's call them their partner, mm-hmm. they want to build an independent record label. Mm-hmm. A, would you advise them to do that? B, what's the first thing that they should be thinking about? Or maybe like the first, I wouldn't say hire because it'd be hard if you don't have the capital.
Yeah, you ain't hiring nobody.
You're not hiring anybody, but what's the first person that you're looking for to bring onto the team?
Probably somebody that just helps with the content, once you have a good understanding of the story and the message that you're trying to share.
Yeah.
Because content is king. So, just trying to, if you don't know how to create videos and, the graphic design. I mean, now there's tools where you can help with all that stuff. There's AI tools and, Canva and things like that. But at the time we were coming up, Hop did a lot of that stuff himself. But if you were able to bring somebody on, it really just depends on what you can't do already. But it typically is the focus of the content, either bettering the music or figuring out how to present it online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you're structuring a business, because you took the role of manager and partner, I could imagine that created some kind of conflict at times.
I still don't think it does. I mean, to me it makes sense.
Okay, make it make sense.
Like why I don't see, because we should all be on the same team. I feel like where that comes from is a time where the manager, had to make sure the label was on their shit, right? But Hop is the label too, right? So we all on the same team.
Fair enough.
Why can't we get in the same room and, why do I need another person to communicate to you or through you? Like, we're on the same team. Let's figure this out and let's move. So to me, I still don't see it. I still don't see it as a conflict.
And also, you're providing different services as a manager and a CEO of a label.
Yeah,
those are two completely different things.
It is, but I feel like the manager these days wears so many different hats.
Yeah.
It's way different than 15, 20 years ago. I think manager is actually a little disrespectful because we do way more than just manage. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're building a label together.
And in this day and age?
Right. Yeah. So you're basically developing a business for or with somebody. And manager just seems so limited compared to what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So does it make sense to be an artist manager commissioning in this day and age, you think?
I got to put myself in like my younger me's shoes, because now for me it doesn't.
Right.
I'm not working with anybody that isn't moved. Like, I can't, especially with what I've gone through, some of the more negative things. Like, I'm older now. I don't have the time to gamble on trying to build somebody to a certain point and then things go left.
Yeah.
If I don't manage any music artists right now, I just work with a really good friend of mine who's a comedian, actor, director, Bigg Jah. He has great traction.
Dope.
We're working on trying to get in the television and film space. Streaming has impacted television and film in a similar way it has done the music, and it's created an opportunity to really create like an independent business. So I'm excited about that, and I'm applying a lot of the things that I've learned in music to what we're doing. But going back to your question, artists need managers. So I have to say, I try to pour into the young managers that have the passion, that have the endurance, that have the just the desire to be in that. Yeah. So I try to give them as much information as possible so that they can avoid some of the mistakes that I made. Right. Mostly in like communication with the artist and just managing that relationship.
What about in the structure of the business? Do you recommend people take a commission?
I would. If you helping somebody build their business from jump, I also put up all the money to start too.
Right.
So, but even if you
didn't though,
even if it's just sweat equity,
yeah, exactly.
I believe if you start from the beginning, you got to have some stake in the business.
Yeah.
I believe that's fair.
I think so too.
In any other industry, that would be fair.
You're a founder of a company.
Right.
If you're both building it from the ground up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, not everybody's fortunate to I had a fortunate situation where I've mentioned this before, but managing Jesse for almost a decade, stepped away from the business, all good, got paid. It was fine, did well for myself off of my commissions of 10%. It was 2 managers, so I was co-managing. First it was just me, then I brought in Byron Wilson to co-manage me with Jesse. He's still with her.
Okay.
But I'm a rare case. Most managers, it seems like anybody I talk to, they'll get cut out. They might not get paid. They might actually help the artist get from 0 to 40, and then all of a sudden the artist is going somewhere else. And guess what? Hopefully you get paid what's in the pipeline, but what's in the pipeline might be 20, 50 grand, 60 grand.
Yeah.
Now this artist is going, but you have zero equity. So if you're starting out from the beginning, to your point, whether you have money to invest or not, there's sweat equity. You're both starting from zero.
That's the thing that people don't understand, because, like, let's just say, and I don't know exactly how much I put into the business over time, because it wasn't just like, here's a lump sum. It was just like, what do we need? Like, even sometimes I would pay Hop's rent at times.
Yeah.
You know, so let's just say I probably put, and not that much before we got rolling. So I'll probably say like 40 or 50,000.
Yeah.
Right. But I was making at Deloitte 120. Right. I got laid off, but I could have gone back I could have gone back to work and made around the same, right? So if I'm working,
you're technically taking a loss.
Exactly. So if I'm working for 2 years, not only did I put in 50,000 direct dollars,
right?
Like, I just gave up potentially 200 plus,
right?
Right. So, you know, I think artists need to understand that too. Like, this is the opportunity cost for me to do this is high.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we gotta account for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just like, if an artist is making 100,000 for the year, you're getting 20% as a manager. That's 20 grand.
Yeah,
right.
And that wasn't the case out the gate either. So it wasn't even, you know what I mean? But
to make 100,000 even as an artist is like, I mean, that you're doing well. You're on your way.
Not that many artists are profitable.
Right.
You know, it's a risk. Like, if you just in this for the money, then pick another industry.
Leave.
Yeah, pick another industry, because you can probably get money a lot quicker. You know, just renting some vending machines or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
the non-sexy job.
Right.
It gets you a lot more money.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. But okay, so now let's talk about like when it started to work though for you guys. Mm-hmm. So like, when was it that you started to say like, oh, this is really starting to like be a thing? And how was the operation running at that point?
I mean, it was still just me, Hop, and my brother. It's probably when we released this first album. No, not even when we released his first album. We got him out of his deal, released his first album, Raw, and damn, all these dates it's been so long. It's probably like 2011, something like that.
Sure. And
it sold decently out the gate, but it didn't really get moving until he dropped a video called Ill Mind 4.
Yeah.
And then he did a collab with Tech 9, Am I a Psycho, and then he got the Double XL cover. You know, all these, I always talk about build on small wins, and I encourage artists, like, once you get a win, like, don't rest on it, don't wait, figure out how that win can lead to the next one, because in this business, you need a string of continuous wins to keep that momentum flowing. So when all those things happen, you know, sales of the album picked up even more, and then we got to a point where we can sign another artist and invest in other artists and just, you know, continue to grow the label.
Oh, so you just kept reinvesting the money back into the business, right? How important is it to reinvest the money back?
You got to bootstrap it, because you don't ever want, because we were never in a position where we had to like look for a deal. We didn't need any outside investment.
Right.
We just bootstrapped that thing until, you know, and it just kept picking up.
So for those who wouldn't know, like, what does bootstrapping mean? Like, and what is reinvesting back into the business? Because a lot of the audience that I think watches this is like trying to figure it out from step one sometimes.
I mean, it's basically, so you start making a little bit of money, you know, you put it back into the business. You make a little bit more than that, and then you put it back into the business, and you just keep building that way, just continuously reinvesting into yourself, so that you don't ever have to take a loan from somebody or get a deal from a label or anything like that you'll have to pay back, or, you know, give up your masters or you know, that's ultimately what it is. And I think artists today are in a great position to do that if you have the work ethic and if you have the patience, because there's more revenue streams available to artists today than there ever have been, right? You know, you have, you know, subscriptions, you got publishing, you got merch, there's so much stuff. You can get on OnlyFans, you can do Cameo, you can sell merch through Printify for damn near nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can drop ship merch. There's so many different ways you make money on YouTube, make money on Twitch, like make money on Instagram, brand deals. Like, there's so many ways if you're able to build an audience that you can monetize that. And I think now is the best time ever to be a creator, if you ask me. because of that. That's probably the top reason to me.
I don't disagree with you on that because I think, but it's like it takes work.
Yeah, it's hard. No, for sure, it's hard. It doesn't mean that it's easier.
No.
But you can get a lot more creative. You have a lot more tools.
Yeah.
You know, you have the chance to get things going a lot quicker if things hit.
Yeah. I'll keep it a buck with you, man. I think I started seeing your Music Entrepreneur Club on Instagram probably like, I'll say pandemic, maybe 2020.
Okay.
I think maybe in around that time. It's been a few years that I've been seeing it with DJ Payne and
Aaron Knight.
Aaron Knight, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was because I always wanted to do this, and I was like, oh wow, these guys are doing this here like over Zoom, and I'd be so locked in, and I thought that was you put so many people on game. You guys inspire me in many ways to do this.
I appreciate it. We got to get, you know, the way you present this podcast is so clean. Like everything looks so dope. Like we've been trying to step up the production value. We do ours remotely because Erin's somewhere. She's typically in Tennessee, Atlanta, or Austin, or somewhere.
Right, okay.
And then Payne's in Wisconsin. It was born out of, like, the Music Entrepreneur Club has gone through a few different iterations, and it was born out of the ashes of Funk Volume, because I felt like one of the reasons that Hop and I butted heads is he just didn't understand the business.
Okay.
And I always tell artists, man, it's super important to understand the business, so that you can make the right moves,
yes,
for sure, but you can also, like, properly value the people around you
and their time.
Yeah, because if you don't know the business, you might think that any manager will work or any publicist will work.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's just plug and play.
Yeah, that's not the case, especially at the manager level.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially at the partner level, like for a label, you know, a small independent label like that. So
it's super important to learn the business so that you can build your team the right way. You can ask the right questions, come up with the right strategy. So that I've just been, and I didn't feel like anybody was having the type of conversations we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can get the Donald Passman book or whatever, but when and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, you should read that, but you should also listen to your experience. Like, artists should listen to your experience because there's a lot of shit that won't be in that book.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of how to manage expectations, you know, what happens when you go on tour, you know, like, there's just so much stuff that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis that's not just like what is publishing, what is a mechanical royalty. Like, know that too, for sure, but, you know, at the end of the day, we're dealing with people, and people sometimes are hard to deal with.
Yep.
And I just wasn't prepared for some of the personalities. I come from the corporate world where, you know, people are on time, people are professional. If you're not, you're fired. It's in this industry, we get extra points for being...
It's expected.
Yeah. We get extra points for showing up on time. Oh, wow, you're on time. Like, what are you talking about? Of course I'm on time. I do. Like, everybody should be on time.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just a different industry, and it took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to have that conversation in the Donald Passman book.
Right. At what point did you start to kind of say like, because maybe in the beginning of your career, because you're coming from corporate, you're trying to, like, you're fighting against this maybe, right?
Yeah.
This idea of like, no, let's just be more structured. Maybe, I'm assuming, I don't know. At what point did you start to say, okay, I got to roll with this because...
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were in Canada, because that's how it was. Like, when we had a show...
Shout out Canada.
And I wanted the guys to, like, be at the sound check.
Yeah.
And then we were at the sound check, and the venue wasn't even at the sound check. So I kept wanting to just present, like, kind of not be perfect, but, you know, I eventually had to relax and be like, okay, so sometimes other people aren't going to be professional, and you know, us showing up to a meeting on time, I still think that's important for sure. Meetings for sure, but like, I could scale back a little bit and not be so, like, militant in my approach. You know, just relax. You know, I don't want to butt heads with the artist over stupid things.
Yeah, that's the man. I think you just said it right there, man. Because I think, like, one of the most important things in this business is picking your battles, especially with the artists that you work with.
Yep, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
There's always like, because it's such a close relationship, and you're gonna spend a lot of time with these people, and that means that you're eventually going to get into conflict. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
lot. Yeah,
reality.
it's a lot of. You definitely have to pick and choose your battles because there's going to be a lot of them. Like if you wanted to fight them all, you're gonna get tired.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
get tired for sure.
And when you're younger, you have the energy to do that. You know what I mean? But it's like it's better to figure out how to make sure that you're getting on the same page. And the arguments that you do get into should be with the end goal of making the business better. And whether that means it could be a multitude of things. I think like even like if it makes the artist's life better, if it's easier for them to travel, if it's okay, cool, get an assistant, get an EA or whatever it is. Yes, sir, you have to pay out of pocket from this, but you know what, we could find somebody good, and guess what? If somebody's really good assistant, they're gonna give you back so much of your time, so it's worth it,
Yeah.
right? Things like that. And then it's like, well, as the manager or somebody at the label would be like, well, we'll communicate with that assistant to ensure that they're on point. You don't always have to be talking. It's a good expense, right? Just kind of things like that. Like even it's for the artist, because at the end of the day, I do understand the artist is the end product. They're the ones that are in front of the camera. They're the ones that got to take the blows like publicly if there's issues, more times than not, right? They're the ones that are going to get all the success, and everybody's going to be pulling at them for everything.
Yeah.
Meet and greets. It gets hectic for them, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely want to build a good business around and structure around the artist so they can continue to grow and be healthy.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And all of what you said again is not going to be in a book, or not going to be in the Donald Passman book at least. There might be some other book written now that's that's more just from from somebody that like it deals with this on a day to day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How important is it though to ensure that the executives and the managers are also of good state of mind?
Well, we didn't have that was one of the mistakes that I made because it was really just me
Okay.
and the artist. And then eventually we signed a deal with Warner, so they were like a partner, and I could on them for some things. But internally, like Funk Volume,
Yeah.
there were no other executives, and that's where I probably could have hired like a strong number two,
Okay.
so that it wasn't always my voice that was interacting with them.
Falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you just get tired of the voice, no matter what it's saying.
100%. Yeah.
Even if it's, and I'm always, have good intentions, and it's always, it's always something, like you said, to push the business forward. But, when you keep hearing my voice, and I understand that my voice is not, it's kind of high pitched at times. Like you just get tired of the voice. It's like, hey, and so artists may be slow to pick up. Might be slow to pick up the phone. It's like, oh, that's Dame again. He's probably gonna want something.
Or yell at me or get mad at me about something.
So there's probably should have been a strong number two to, even if it was to communicate something that I need them.
Yeah.
Just going through a number two would have probably, it wouldn't have. I think eventually would have crashed and burned anyway, but it might have delayed it for like a year or two.
Fair enough.
So
no, I know what you mean, because even with Byron, like he doesn't get nearly enough credit as he deserves for the role that he played in growing the career of Jesse, because he's a really good dude, but he's just very calm and patient and an amazing communicator. And Jesse and I are both Colombian. So when there's an argument, those are two Colombians arguing.
Right.
So it would be like, man, I don't even want to talk right now because it's too much. Be like Byron. He'd go in and have the conversation with Jesse just to like communicate it properly, and she would hear it better. Right.
Was the decision to bring on Byron something you suggested or something Jesse?
I suggested it.
But I think it's dope that you were the one to suggest that, because typically a lot of times that comes from the artist, right? And then the manager has to hear that they bring it on someone else, and now you split my commission in half?
Yeah.
Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I hate to turn this interview back on you.
But this is what you do.
And you probably explained it hella times in other episodes, but like,
not necessarily. That's a good question.
Why were you comfortable doing it? How did you feel like bringing that person on was going to grow the pie to the point where you're actually going to make money in the long run?
That's a fire question. You know why? Because there was a stalemate whenever there was conflict between Jesse and myself. couldn't move the needle. And I knew Byron from a long time from the music video space because my production company was doing all the music videos for the other artist that he started with, this artist named Sunreal. You might be familiar with Sunreal.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, because he's same era as Hopsin.
Yeah, it sounds super familiar.
Yeah. So I knew that Byron was really good. And when we were doing these videos, we were talking about strategy, we were talking about music, we were talking about creative, all kinds of shit. I was just like, no, I had an opportunity at the production company to work with a lot of artists and a lot of managers and a lot of labels. And I hate to say it, but like 85 to 90% of them were not good. They just weren't good managers.
Yeah, it's hard to find a good man. I mean, it's hard to find a good artist, but it's hard to find, especially because the good ones are getting chased out.
Right, yeah. And he was one of the good ones. He was really solid. So I always hit him up for, just to kind of get advice and stuff like, and I managed her for a year, but yeah, it was having Byron around was really good in terms of being like a tiebreaker, but also had experience as a artist manager. Now, all of us didn't have the level of experience because when we put out figures for Jesse, like that was independent and it just broke wide open. Within 48 hours, our emails were flooded with all kinds of CEOs from all over the world, like from the labels. So we never experienced anything like that. Like that was all brand new to us. So we were figuring it out in real time. But prior to, it was just that was like, this is somebody that can help communicate things that I can't properly communicate.
Yeah, I mean, that's very mature of you, especially, and then I'm assuming your commission was 20%.
Yeah.
Did he come right in at 10 and start getting 10 like from the jump, or did like 5 and then 7 and 10? Like how did it?
Yo, when I need some time off, he's gonna just step in and do the podcast. Like you're gonna do the podcast. Deal? I love it. No, so this is a great question. Yeah, he did. The only thing that I don't think he's gonna mind me saying this, and I think he probably might feel a way about this after the fact, but like it is what it is. We made a lot more money afterwards, so it's fine. But it was 10-10 out the gate, no problem. I didn't have any issues with that. It was for sure understandable. But I negotiated the publishing deal almost like because we did a pub deal with BMG, Zach Kassinger, my Thomas, they were there at the time. And I negotiated it like 85, 90% of the way. I doubled the advance of what they wanted to give. I went in super high, to be honest with you. Zach Cass will tell you, like, this guy took more, like, he's like, the advance that we gave for Jesse was less than how many dinners I had to take you out because you just kept asking me with questions, just peppering him with all kinds of questions, and then just raising the price on the advance. I'm like, if you think she's that special, and we didn't have anything to our name, but I was just like, if you think she's that special of a writer, then like, let's see what it is. Right. And they gave us a good deal. Like, it was at the time it was a MDC, just go through the deal, submit songs, and then recoup, and then just go through the options. But on that specific deal, because I got it so far and negotiated a lot of the terms, I did 15.5.
Got you.
With him, but everything
makes
else,
sense.
Everything else.
I mean, I think I applaud you for, and not to say that's something that I wouldn't do, because I definitely think it's something that I would be mature enough to be open to. It would just have to make a whole lot of sense. And it sounds like you had a relationship with Byron. Yeah. It didn't just come out of the blue, and it did make sense. So that's dope. I think a lot of managers wouldn't do that.
No, but so I mean, I remember what's 100% of nothing,
right? Yeah, no, for sure.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah, but again, like I said, a lot of managers, because we're only getting 20%. Because to be honest with you, artists will probably fight me on this, but depending on what your role is, 20% is. We deserve more.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here again because I'm kind of out the game. Like, I'm not gonna try to, just since I'm not playing the game anymore. I ain't just gonna mess up the board and walk away. So I'm not gonna. But if you are a really good manager and you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, it's a lot of work, bro. It's a lot of work. And to get 20%, I think that keeps a lot of good people out of the industry too. It's like, I know that people have the skill set to be killer managers, but they're looking at it and like, I'm smart enough not to do that. I'm gonna go build my own business and do some amazing shit. Like, I'm not doing this.
This is how I look at it. I typically look at it this way, to your point. If you're starting out from anew, you should do a deal where it's 50-50 and there should be some kind of agreement that there's equity in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. If you're already in the business and there's a new artist that you're super hyped about and you got a little bit of infrastructure, meaning you have a team, because as a manager that has the experience to go and break a new artist by themselves, like it's just not the same.
Right.
It's really hard to have that drive, and any manager with experience will tell you that.
Yeah.
But if it's that, I say maybe, and you have a team, you have all the relationships, this artist just has great artist presence, maybe it's 60-40 for the manager, 50-50, and then if things go up, you change the scales.
I agree with you, and I again, that's why it's so important to learn the business, because no two things are alike. Like, there's so many different variables in every situation.
100%.
That you just got to be open to it. You can't just be like, oh, okay, this is standard. Like, every deal is can be so different.
Yeah. And what if the artist that artist is coming in, but they don't have a whole lot of experience, but guess what? They are tapped into an incredible marketing content background. They understand how to mobilize social media like a manager doesn't. So maybe that plays a factor into things as well, right? Because you never know what skill set an artist will have.
For sure.
You know what I mean? To build a business.
For sure.
The only time I think now, to be honest with you, if you're in management and you should take 20%, and I'll probably get crucified by artists for saying this, but I really only think the only time you should take 20% on it and just keep it as commission is if the artist is already generating 7 figures.
Yeah, it's rocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they rocking already.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if an artist making 7 figures would give up 20%. Well, I don't know, but I agree with you. It may not. For me, that number might not be 7 figures. It might be at least in the few hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
But the concept is still the same.
Right.
Yes, we got to be made. If I'm just gonna come in and make 20, we got to be rocking right out the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the artists, just because we were talking about how managers should protect themselves. How should artists protect themselves?
With education, number one. Learn the business. Don't make any quick moves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can always, if there's a deal on the table, there should be no pressure to sign the deal. If there's pressure to sign the deal, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
So just learn the business, take your time, lock in with a lawyer.
When you say pressure too, it doesn't just necessarily mean pressure from the other side of the label. Like, if the label says you got 24 hours to sign this, walk the fuck away.
For sure.
But also think about the pressure that's coming from your internal team, because if your manager's pressuring you to do this and it's not a good deal, you need to rethink who you're working with.
Yeah,
as well.
No, for sure.
Lawyers as well, man. Lawyers.
Yeah.
I mean,
the lawyers, I feel like they were, and some of them still having to adapt. Like, everybody has had to adapt to changes in the industry.
Yeah.
And I feel like lawyers were the last two, and some of them still haven't, right? And like, even when we did our deal with Warner, I don't know why I paid our lawyer. So he got a percentage of the deal, but he wasn't really like a lawyer that was part of the team. He kind of just came in, negotiated it, and we gave him a percent. I was like, what the fuck?
5?
Yeah, but why did we do that? Like, why? You know what I mean? I should have just paid a lawyer hourly,
right,
to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like lawyers were the last people, and some of them still haven't, like, adjusted their business to changes to the environment.
Was it a lawyer that was already in the music business?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, because they'll have their.
I mean, it's all good. You live and learn, but the game changes fast.
Very fast.
So you just kind of have to continue to evolve with it.
Yeah.
Try to stay ahead of it. So.
One thing that I've heard you talk about, and I think it's an interesting perspective, because we have a lot of similarities, actually. I never went to Stanford.
I think when you really do this and you're a good person, I feel like we're gonna share a lot of the same thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, I already knew you were good people because you were sharing so many gems online. I'm like, yeah, man, like, this is not regular, especially 4 or 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So I already knew that. And I really like the info you guys share. And I like how DJ Payne is also like super snappy in the comments as well too. He'd be an asshole in there.
I told him to stay out of there. One, I was like, how do you have time to reply to these
I
idiots?
see him in there all the time, man.
It's like, there's so many people that are just, like, I don't have time for idiots. You know what I'm saying? You say something stupid, I'm not going to address it. I'm just
Yeah, I never see you in the
let it rock.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I used to have fun with it. Like, if I did have time, I was like, what can I say to make this person realize that what they just said is hella stupid?
Yeah.
You know, so I typically would just ask questions. Like, just keep asking questions in the comment. So it's almost like a little circular reference, like, until they get it, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go hard at them. Like, Payne will call you names and stuff like that.
That's funny. He's got the energy for that,
man. Yeah, I don't know how, but still, he still to this day, he'll respond to some.
Shout out to Payne. Yeah. Shout out to Aaron. What I was going to say is the perspective that I think is interesting, because a lot of people don't talk about it, because I think a lot of times people talk about streaming as a bad thing because it's pennies on the dollar, not even pennies on the dollar, like 0.003, Spotify.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, you see value in streaming.
For sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that and why?
For sure. Like, just look at the finance companies that have gotten involved in the music industry. Like, finance companies don't get involved in industries where there's no money, right? And there's typically pretty smart people at these finance companies, and it's provide an alternative financing method for artists, right? Like, if you have healthy streaming, you could potentially go to a company like Beat Bread or some of these other companies to see what the advance you can get on your existing streams and compare that to the deal that your a label was going to give you. And you potentially have the option to stay independent, keep your masters, and keep rocking. And, you can continue to re-up and get more of an advance on your existing royalties, or eventually sell it. I know that some people say you should never sell your music, blah, 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 but they were given like 15-time multiples a few years ago, like 10, 15. I'm like, bro, there was a kid who made, I think, like $100,000 a year streaming, and they were going to give him $1 million. I was like, bro, there's going to be decay on these streams, but even if there wasn't, they're giving you 10 years worth of your royalties now.
Yeah. And it was like super early, the 100. Oh, so it wasn't even normalized.
Yeah. So I'm like, why? Like, if you got other things you want to do, you want to invest in some real estate, because it's not like, well, it also depends on what you're going to do with the money too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could, if you have something else you want to invest in, that might offer a better return than your royalties would have offered you.
Yeah.
So it just depends. Again, everybody's in a different situation. You got to be able to, analyze the deals in front of you and take into account all the different variables, and does it make sense for you?
Right.
And what your long-term strategy is.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing as well is a lot of people, they'll hear the big price tag of like soul catalog for 100 million, 150 million, 500 million when it comes, I think it was Bruce Springsteen. But like, there's other deals that are happening that are much lower, and you're an artist that's younger. Just because you sell a catalog doesn't mean you can't build another catalog.
Yeah, you can keep rocking.
Exactly.
You can keep rocking. So I don't advise. I mean, it's not a blanket statement like everybody should sell their catalog. Yeah. It's a case by case.
Yeah.
What is the deal that they're giving you? What is your long-term goal? But they were given pretty good deals. I don't know what they are now. I think some of the deals are solid even to today. Like,
it's still 10, 12.
Yeah.
X, like, I mean, pre-interest rates going up, I knew deals that were like 23, 24x.
Yeah, they were up there, bro. They were up there. So, streaming has introduced that possibility if you're able to get traction. Now, I know it's hard for most artists to get traction via streaming, but it's always been hard for artists to get traction in any era, right? Like, if you were just slinging CDs out of your trunk, 20 years ago, it was going to be hard to sell enough CDs to eventually make a living, right? If you You know, the iTunes era, it was hard. Like it's always hard because there's so many artists that want to do this.
Yeah.
There's more music getting released than there are minutes in the day to listen to all this music. So of course most of the music on Spotify is not going to have a single play. There's 100,000 songs plus getting released every day. So I understand why there's more people frustrated and mad because this industry was never designed for everybody to win. You know, so there's always going to be people upset because most people aren't winning. So I get it. But don't start, and I have my problems with Spotify. I always want artists to make more money, right? But you know, Spotify to me has supplied the closest thing to a regular paycheck for an artist, like because it's pretty consistent. Like if you start doing numbers,
Yeah.
like it's pretty consistent from month to month.
Yeah.
That's why that's why these finance companies are able to analyze these streams over a certain period of time and predict, you know, how it's going to perform and give you an advance based on their prediction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
and to not to confuse an advance that a label will give you where you have to pay back. That just means they'll give you an advance on what the streams are going to do in the future. That's your money. You never have to pay that back. But you're selling your copyrights.
But you can, there's like B-Bread, you can just get an advance on it. You can decide.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can decide. Okay, I just want you to license my catalog for 3 years. You can license your catalog for a year.
Okay.
You can determine what length of time you want to license your catalog. You can determine what percentage of your catalog you want to. You can license half of it for a year. Obviously, you're not going to get as much as if you license it for 10 years. But if you only need a little bit of money, then maybe you license it for a shorter period of time.
Okay.
You can determine that
with B-Bread.
Yeah.
So how do you get connected with B-Bread? Do they got to come
like
in?
Two Loss has a great relationship. So B-Bread is a standalone company, but we also do a lot of our deals in partnership with B-Bread at Two Loss.
Okay.
Or if you want the max amount of money, then you sell your catalog.
Right.
You know, it just depends on what your existing financing needs are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So but streaming has allowed for that to even be a possibility.
Wasn't happening before when it was just physical.
Yeah, and you know, I think I don't have the numbers in front of me now, but like, you know, the market for music has grown since, you know, I don't know where it was with like iTunes and things. We're now, you know, back. We're not back in the CD era, but like it's growing. More artists. There's more independent artists today than there ever have been.
Oh, by far, and doing well.
That's the biggest metric to me. It's like, you know, how many independent artists are there that are making a living doing music?
Yeah.
If there's more today, then artists are figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just more creators trying today because music has become easier to make, easier to distribute. So you have more people calling themselves artists. Mm-hmm. And again, most people aren't winning, so there's going to be frustration, and they're the people going to the comments, and because they're the majority, they're going to be the loudest about Spotify ain't shit.
Right,
you know?
right.
But that narrative, and again, I think there are improvements Spotify needs to make. I think his messaging oftentimes is terrible. Daniel Ek. Yeah, I think his messaging to artists is sometimes very terrible.
Yeah.
You know, and the new news in which they struck some deal with UMG, which is going to give them higher royalty rates. I don't know exactly how that works, but that kind of sounds like that sucks for independent artists. You know, the not paying out songs that are under 1,000 streams.
Yeah.
I don't like it. That seems like a handout to the majors, but
in many ways, because the pro rata affects them more than anything else. To my understanding, I don't.
But also, you know, but if your song doesn't hit 1,000 streams, we're talking about like a few dollars.
Yeah.
So again, the people that are complaining, it's not like they would have been winning in any other era. It's like it's a lot of I would say 90% of the artists that were winning before should be winning today.
Yo, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, it's just the folks that are complaining that wouldn't have been winning in any era.
Yeah, exactly. I said this as well. But to your point, it's like you can look at something and honestly, it is just like state of mind, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I can look at something and say like, that's trash, that's shit, fuck that. Go online and talk shit about it and just be like sulking about it. Or I can be like, how much is that? I can do that now. I can figure this out. How do I do that? How do I go and like, who do I need to speak to? What do I got to figure out? Go and figure it out.
Yeah.
The reason why you are a winner is because you're just like analyzing, you're watching, you're studying.
Yeah.
It's like they say, study the greats. If you want to be a great artist,
Yeah.
then you study the greats. It's the same thing as.
Yeah. I have a podcast that comes out whenever I get around to locking in an artist called Independent Living, the Independent Living podcast. And I bring on artists that are successful.
Yeah.
And we always talk about like what their revenue mix is.
Yeah.
You know, like some artists, like Guap came on and told me that his biggest revenue stream was from brand partnerships. But more often than not, with these artists, the top one is streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm bringing all these artists on that's saying that their top revenue stream is streaming, and then you have all these fake music educators that are just hyping people up, bashing Spotify. Like, there's a disconnect. And if you're smart, you're going to figure out, okay, how are these artists saying that Spotify has been great for them, but this person who hasn't been able to figure it out just starts creating some content, bashing Spotify. Like, use your brain. Like, you can figure this out. But to me, like I said before, one of the biggest things that you should see is like finance companies are getting into the space.
Right.
Like, finance companies do not flock to industries where there's no money.
Yep.
So it's somewhere.
Yeah. Or a reoccurring revenue.
Yeah.
There's a reoccurring revenue that they can depend on.
Yeah, there's transparency in these streams, and they can analyze it with their algorithms or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's predictable cash flows, and it's creating opportunities for artists.
Absolutely. Okay, we talk about streaming a lot in terms of a revenue. What are some other revenues that artists and managers or executives should be looking at if they're coming into the game that more times they're missing out on this one?
I don't know if there's like any hidden revenue that nobody is, but it really just depends on what other interests the artist has, right, and how they want to construct their business. Because some people are into fashion and they really want to lean heavy into their clothing line.
Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about the merch side of things.
Yeah, I mean we had a fan base that really heavily supported us in the merch. So that was a big part of the business.
Yeah.
It was important for us to, make sure that we were fairly accurate on how much we brought on the road. You never wanted to do a show and just be out of merch.
Right.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's great that you sold out your merch.
You could have sold more.
You could have sold a lot more. So
that happened to you guys often?
Yeah. I mean, it happened. I wouldn't say often because we were always, trying to figure it out. And we would just find, worst case scenario, we would either ship stuff out or find like a rush order place in that city to get something at the show.
Yeah. It's probably the first time it happens is exciting as fuck.
Yeah.
Because you're like, the expectation, you didn't know.
Yeah.
But then if it happens a second or third time, that's when it's a problem. So like you prepare for it. So that's more than likely what happens.
So you should be keeping track. If you are touring artists, you should be keeping track of what you're doing in each city. How many people are showing up to the shows, how much, per, basically just calculating kind of like a per head, how much you sold, so that you can be more accurate with the merch that you take on.
Yeah.
And you can hire the right amount of people and make sure that it's presented properly and make sure you can take payments quickly, because sometimes it's a lot of people at once. You don't want people to turn away because the line's too long or things get hectic. So that's a whole other business that if you do have a community that supports you and you have merch and you want that to be a big part of your business, it's I always tell artists to because most artists don't have good websites, especially for selling merch, and you want to look to other artists to like steal some of their ideas, but I would steal ideas from the people that do that full time. So the clothing lines and the brands that do it full time,
right?
And see what the customer experience is like, see what the user experience is like on that web, and try to mimic that, as opposed to trying to find an artist that has a good.
That's smart.
Yeah. So. So yeah, merch. I mean, you might have an artist that's into gaming and they have a Twitch channel.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money in that. A lot of artists have pivoted to just being streamers, and they put out music every once in a while.
Yep.
Are they into acting? They want to do some sketches or some movies. Your stuff's on YouTube. Now the actor and director comedian that I work with, Bigg Jah, we have stuff on Tubi.
Okay.
So Tubi's become a good.
Pays good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get people to watch it.
Right.
So when we create our web series, we typically get a brand involved, try to get a brand sponsor. So that's the first level of monetization. And then we drop the series weekly on YouTube, censored, so that we can get it monetized on YouTube.
Okay.
And then we'll sell the full season on our own site, direct to fans, for people that want to watch it uncensored.
Behind the paywall.
Yeah, and want to watch the whole thing at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So we sell it direct to fans, and then once all the episodes are out on YouTube, we put it on Tubi.
Is it a one-time payment to do that, or is it a subscription?
The direct to fan. We do a one-time payment because we don't have enough consistent content every month to justify a subscription yet.
How come?
Because putting together these web series, I say web series, but they're very high quality, pretty much TV shows.
Yeah.
And they're hard to produce. They take a lot of time.
Writing.
So we don't have them keep. They're not going to keep coming. There's always going to be a gap between, maybe not always, but right now there's a gap between like one series and the next. Last year we only put out one, and this year we have tried to get ahead of it and beefed up the team so that we're in production of one of them right now, and then that one will go live, and there'll be a shorter break so we can go right into production of the other one. But it still won't be back to back.
Okay.
And I think for a subscription, we gotta be able to put out content faster.
Yeah.
Or supplement it with a different experience. But Ja doesn't really like to go live and do other things to engage his community. So we'd have to have more content coming on a more frequent basis. But hopefully we get there at some point.
Yeah.
Where we can introduce a subscription.
And so you have that to me is, again, it kind of goes back to the catalog, because I don't think people even know that you can sell your YouTube channels as well, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, there's companies now that will give you an advance on your YouTube bread.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We got off. It was nothing. It wasn't something that Ja wanted to do because we didn't need a lump of cash. But if you want, let's just say you wanted to shoot a feature film, and they can give you $100,000 up front, and you feel like you can take that $100,000, shoot your feature film, and then sell it direct to your fans and really make some more bread. That might be a way to fund your feature. But yeah, basically any platform now with predictable revenue streams, you can probably get an advance on it.
Yeah, exactly. You can get an advance on it or sell it. What if you know? So like, say for $100,000, right? Just for argument's sake, how are you getting somebody to purchase your YouTube channel or give you an advance on your YouTube channel for $100,000? Like, what are the things that artists and executives should be looking at to get their business to that?
Well, I think they're looking for, you got to be consistent with content on YouTube, just like you have to be consistent with music, right? Like you need to build up a catalog that people have a heavy interest in and people are watching. I mean, that's really all it is. I think there's quite a few companies out there, but I think the last one that reached out to us is called Spotter.
Oh, so you had a few companies reach out to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're on it. Like, these companies want...
They know.
If they can get... Because normally...
Is the advertising that they're looking at?
They probably are just running some program, and you know how it is. Same thing with like A&R these days. They're just... as soon as some song... I don't know what the thresholds are, but remember when you said a lot of people started reaching out to you at once? It must have hit... Whatever you guys were doing hit that magic number at these labels... And they were on it.
At that time, what it was, to your point, it was global viral charts. It was like number 2 when it mattered on Spotify. Like, it really mattered back then. It was like 4 weeks.
I mean, these A&Rs, like even at Two Lost, they're we're on top of trying to stay on top of what's moving. but people are on it, and they're on YouTube. They're doing the same thing.
How you doing so much, man? You do a lot
Yeah, I need
at a
to.
high level, man.
I need to. I need to scale back.
Okay.
And I did. I actually was disappointed because, so I do the in real life experience game from the gods is something I do with Ray Daniels.
I really wanted to go last week.
Yeah, it's a dope event, and on top of that, so I'm gonna continue doing that. Ray Daniels is my guy.
Can you tell him to pull up to this?
Huh?
Can you tell him to pull up to this?
When he's in town? I'm sure he'll be down.
Perfect.
I'm sure he'd be down to come through.
Perfect.
But we were also doing like a Tuesday like talent show, and I recently told him, I was like, look, bro, like I like the talent show is cool, but that this is what I have to drop.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm also expecting a little one in June.
Congrats.
So I'm definitely have to prepare for that and just to scale back on some things. But I enjoy the things I'm working on. I think, the stuff, I've been in music so long that I mean it's still fun to me what I'm doing at Two Lost. Not working, I don't have to work directly with artists because my role is like the Two Lost brand. So I enjoy that, but it also doesn't take up that much time where I can't do the work that I do with Bigg Jah. It's like a perfect.
Okay.
It's like a perfect situation for me.
So what are you doing at Two Lost?
So I'm our marketing director, so I run all of our marketing efforts. But again, it's more so the Two Lost brand.
Okay.
Like I'm not working on, like if we do direct deals with artists, like I'm not working on like any strategies for the next release of whatever artist that we're working with. That's another department.
And for people who don't know, what is Two Lost?
So Two Lost is a music distribution company, similar to like your TuneCore. It's a self-service platform to like a TuneCore or DistroKid, but then we also do direct deals with artists to have a little bit more traction.
Okay.
So you can get an advance from us.
Oh, really?
So we you can get advance on existing catalog, or we sometimes do futures deals as well.
What would you say is the better value proposition to go with Two Lost versus another aggregator?
Well, I would say a few different things. One, we deliver to more stores and services than any other distributor out there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have like your Spotify. Everybody delivers to those, but there's definitely smaller DSPs in other markets that might get ignored.
Okay.
So we deliver to like 450 stores. The analytics on the platform are next level. You're gonna find some analytics on our platform that you're not gonna get anywhere else, or at least any other distributor.
Like what?
You'll see like skip rate, what playlist your music is in, where like skip rates, more detailed analysis of like what's happening to your music on Spotify.
Yeah.
Right. We have collaborator splits. We're adding advanced splits soon. So where this would be good for somebody that's either a manager or a label, where you have to recoup, like say you want to split this project with somebody, but you want to recoup a certain amount first.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do a profit share situation.
Yeah.
Right now with most distributors, you kind of need to just monitor it. Okay, now let's put in the splits.
Manually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can put in the amount that you want to recoup, and then it'll automatically split once that recoup hits.
No shit.
So there's more ways.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So from a label perspective, it's just a lot easier and smoother. We're about to introduce a white label distribution product as well. So if you wanted to start your own distribution company, you can just use our back end and our support.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the ways in which we're looking to really grow this year, is the white label distribution.
I've never heard of that, actually. That's a pretty unique idea.
Yeah, so that's going to be...
So wait, let me understand that, because what you're saying is, if I wanted to be a distributor, then what, and is everything negotiable in terms of like what the split is with Two Lost?
Yeah, so I would imagine, like say you can charge whatever you wanted to charge on your end for, like let's just say you were adding like an education component to your distribution service. Like they got access to the manager's playbook, and you were going to host Zooms on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. And for that, you wanted to add like a premium to your subscription price.
Okay.
Right? So you could still make money and just use our pipes on the back end.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So
I take back what I said then.
What do you mean?
That I don't need a distribution.
So we become like partners with people that want to create distribution companies. But there are a lot of companies out there that, don't have their own pipes. They're really just using Fuga, and what I mean.
Yeah.
So basically,
That's right.
we'd probably be more in competition with those folks, where you could just use us on the back end.
You guys have your own. You said your own pipes. Okay.
And then you can, like I said, launch your own distribution.
You know what? So you said that you delivered to 450 different services, right? I always thought about this. I'm like, do those other does the 449th service actually matter?
It just depends. Like, the 449 probably no.
Okay.
But maybe the 50th or 60th, just depending on where it is. And, your music might do well in India for some reason.
Because of a certain platform that's not known here in North America.
Or somebody just on social media, it picked up in India and maybe India doesn't use Spotify as much. There's another competitor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like Peloton, for example. Like if these Peloton instructors play your music, it's you can make like $500, $600 for them playing your music. So we distribute to Peloton so that their instructors have it in their library should they want to play the music during one of their live instructions.
You know what? That's interesting as well, because a lot of these instructors are now starting to build their own brands as well online. So if you're an artist or you're an executive, you should go and connect with that instructor. Be like, hey, got some music for your Peloton class, and it's distributed to your here. And maybe you can do a deal with the instructor as well.
Yeah.
That's another way to do it, right?
Yeah.
To your point, there's so many different ways.
There's so many ways to get to it. Like, I was on the Independent Living podcast, I was interviewing Queen Herbie, and she told me that she sold chewed gum for
what?
$100 a pop.
What?
She chewed the gum, she shellacked it, and sold it for $100 a pop, and sold out.
Really?
You just never know.
You never know.
You build your community, you tell your story, and you can come up with unique ways. Like everything that you do should tell your story, right? Obviously, you're telling your story through your music. Your merch should be consistent in the story that you're telling. Your show, so you just got to come up with ideas. If people are bought into what you're doing, you just come up with more creative ideas to, again, continue to tell that story.
If you were to do it again, Funk Volume, what would you do differently?
Like I said, just bring on more voices. Like I said earlier, just bring on more voices.
Would you have kept the structure, the deal structure the same?
Cats don't even know this, and they may think that I'm lying, but I wanted to give all the artists like equity at a certain point, because the difference between independent labels and major labels, like major labels have the money to take bets, right? They're signing a shitload of artists. They got hundreds of artists on their roster.
Yeah.
As an independent label, like I ain't shelving nobody. Like we gotta at least hit a single with every artist.
Right.
And I want to work with this artist forever. If I sign this artist, that means I like what they're doing, and hopefully they stay with us forever. So I want to create an environment that supports them forever.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, of course we're going to give them equity at some point. Of course we're going to help them, with health insurance and making sure that because basically our business manager started helping like Dizzy Wright, for example.
Yeah.
Like he got to a point where he was making money, and he would work with our business manager as well, so that he can start doing the right things, make sure he puts money away for taxes and things like that. So I wanted to continue to provide those services and make sure that the artist was cool from every which way, so that they can continue that they want to be here, and it makes sense for them to be here for a very long time. But we didn't really get to that.
Right.
So.
Right. But I also say that, like, I think it's a good idea in theory, but to be honest, sometimes in practice, artists don't give a shit about that. They don't care about the equity part of it. They're not looking at it the same way that a business-minded person would.
Well, I mean, shit. If you explain to, if you explain, well, I would hope it's an easy sell. You could be like, hey, you have this much equity. This is how much the company is valued at.
You would hope.
You would hope that that's a pretty easy, and it's not like we're asking them to pay. I would have asked them to pay for it. I would have felt like they earned it through, the work that they put in through the label.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The mindset of the independent label is just way different than the major.
The major label.
But even though they got more bread, I feel like the leg up that the independents have is that our brand matters more to our communities. Like there's actually fans of Funk Volume. There's no fans of
Universal Music Group.
Right. If the only people wearing that merch, you probably work there.
I would say the one label that has a brand is Def Jam, but they started independent.
But even that and they had a very strong brand. Yeah. But today, what does Def Jam mean to people that don't know about the beginning stages of Def Jam? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's definitely imprints at labels. I mean, TDE, of course. I mean, but to me, that's the value add that I could give to an artist that we sign, is that I can immediately introduce you to fans that love the label, and it's up to you to make them a fan of you. Like, I can immediately introduce you to some fans that already trust what we do.
Yeah.
Major labels can't do that.
Right. Let's talk about that a little bit more. How did you create that brand identity that people were so rabid about? Because I think Hopsin, you guys did a phenomenal job with his brand as well. Like, that's like deep down the funnel engagement with Hopsin, and then also with your brand. How did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just starts with Hop and the music that he makes, and just the type of content, the things that he was saying just really resonated with it. So I would be a fool not to acknowledge that it kind of starts with the artist and how they're telling their story. But I think on the label side, we just did a lot of stuff to build community. Right, so a few of those things were like, one of the merch items early on was like, one of the more premium merch items was you had the opportunity to get a Funk Volume jersey and like personalize it and put your name on the back. So that was one of the things. We also allowed our fans to sell. We also allowed our fans to sell our CDs, like a wholesale price. So if you bought 20 CDs, you can buy 20 CDs for $2 a pop. At the time, it cost us $1, so we were still making $1 on every CD.
So smart.
And they would turn around and flip them. They would sell them for $5, $10. So they would be making more money than us on it, but we didn't care because they were spreading the music.
So smart.
And we already made $1 on each CD.
I heard you talk about that. Yeah.
So every time we sent out, I think I made them buy at least 20. I think it was at least 20.
Minimum 20.
Yeah. So we made, every time we shipped out a box of 20, we made $20.
Right.
And they made, there were probably some people in certain markets selling them for 10. So they made $8 on every.
More.
So we sold a lot of CDs that way. But I think and then we did like a lot of competitions. We were constantly online, like replying to every comment. Creating those Facebook groups.
Yes.
Like, we were just heavy online. Hop would go online. He would go live, like at that time it was like live stream and ManyChat. Not ManyChat.
ManyChat, yeah.
TinyChat.
Okay.
ManyChat is what we use today.
Yeah.
TinyChat. It was there was live stream. Ustream.
Yes.
Was it Ustream?
Yep.
Yeah. So we would use all those to do like weekly shows. They would freestyle live. We would just come up with different ways to engage the audience.
And who was coming up with all that strategically?
Some of it was Hop, but like a lot of it was me as well. Like the weekly little, I think we called it Funk Volume TV. But Hop would always just get on TinyChat and just talk with his fans.
Yeah.
Do stuff like that. So
he knew the value.
Yeah. So he just enjoyed it.
He enjoyed it.
But yeah, we started a community service initiative, Funk Volume in the community. So we do a different community service event every month. We were just active, bro. We started a contest. That's why a lot of artists became fans, because we had a contest called the Don't Fuck Up Our Beats contest.
Right.
and thousands of artists would participate in it every time we did it. Yeah, we were just active.
So how would you? I know in today's day and age, I know it's not, you don't have the label like that, but like, what are some of those things that an artist, an executive could do? Like, what's a similar thing to selling the 20 CDs wholesale that somebody could do today?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I would just really, again, have a great understanding of the story that I'm trying to tell, and just have a great content strategy and be consistent with it.
Yeah.
And then whatever it is, like whatever your Ray calls them pillars, right? Like let's just say there's an artist. What are the 5 things that you really want people to know about you? Like so for me, if I was an artist, or just the type of stuff that I post online, it's like, family oriented, a little political. I stay up on what's happening in politics. I hoop, like I enjoy basketball. I still play it. I pay attention
See that
to
trade today?
Yeah, I see all the trades.
See all the trades?
So I pay attention what's going on. So I might get involved with that. And then so once you have your pillars, it's like okay, this is what the content's going to be created around, so that people start to learn who I am and people start to gravitate towards it. I always use Toby Nwigwe as a good example because I followed him at probably like, I think my brother put me on to him when he was at like maybe 10,000 followers or whatever.
Wow.
And I used to see him, he had this series called his Get Twisted Sundays, where I know it's his wife now, but at the time it was just his girlfriend, Fat. He would sit in between her legs and get his hair twisted while he was spitting a verse. And he would do that every Sunday. I think I'm a big fan of artists having a branded content series that comes out on a regular basis.
Repetition.
Every Monday, every Tuesday, every first of the month. Whatever's part of your story, right? You might have maybe being broke is part of your story, and you grew up on food stamps or welfare checks or whatever. That's a big part of your story. So you might have a content piece that comes out every first of the month because that's when the check hit when you were little. So that starts to tell that story. Maybe you got a favorite number, so maybe you drop it on the 7th because the 7th means, So to me, it all starts with the content right now.
But how do you monetize that then now?
I mean, you can get brands involved eventually. Yeah. I wouldn't think about monetization. Initially, I wouldn't think about it. I would just think about growing up
Building
enough
the brand
interest in, building the community essentially.
Yeah.
Like LaRussell's done an amazing job. He's like
phenomenal.
Does a really good job at telling his story. But even with Toby Nwigwe, it's at a point where, I realized like, okay, he's from the Houston area, Nigerian descent, played football. I knew so much about this cat, you would think I was stalking him, or read some kind of book, but it was really just because he told his story so well consistently online. And I think, people know the same amount of stuff of LaRussell.
Right.
It's from Vallejo. It's a family operation. Got the pergola in the back. He does the shows. You know what I'm saying? You know so much about him because he's posting so much and he's consistent with the story that he's telling.
Frequency.
Yeah.
I always tell artists that as well. Like it's like people will think that they're posting too much. Like once a day is too much. I'm like, listen, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
I saw that this brand in India. So Mr. Beast was out there like a month ago or something like that, and they pulled up on him, and it was this Instagram account that's got like 20 million followers or 50 million, something like that, something outrageous. And Mr. Beast was like, how'd you get so many followers on Instagram? They said, we post 100 pieces of content a day on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's like they got a ton of followers, so like, a bunch of them will bomb. They don't care. One will like go crazy, and that'll bring in a lot of people. I'm not saying do 100 posts a day,
right?
But I'm saying if they're not getting shadow banned, what makes you think you're gonna get shadow banned if you're posting 3 times a week?
You're not gonna get, as long as you're. What I'm against is just posting to post.
Yeah, like spamming
right?
and shit.
Yeah. Or it's just you should have a good idea of what you're posting every day. You should never wake up thinking about, oh damn, I gotta post. What should I post today? You should have a plan already in place so that you know what you're posting on Monday to every day of the week.
Yeah.
So that it's purposeful posting, and it's contributes again to the story that you're telling, and it's not just some random ass thing that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, to your point, like a content series, using this as an example, I do this bi-weekly. I'm trying to get to a weekly space, right? But what I do is I'll do hour to 2, sometimes 3 hour conversation. and then I'm getting at least 14 clips minimum because I'm going bi-weekly, so I'm getting
sure.
a post every single day. But what I recently started doing, because I'm like, I want to get 2 more posts up a day, I started posting up this static image of just these things that I think about, right? And I kind of just workshop them and then post that out with a little bit of a look to it, which actually my girlfriend created.
Nice.
And so I'm posting that every single day. And the funny thing is that those static posts are actually, so far, they actually get more engagement than the video content, and it's a way cheaper spend. Like,
Yeah, because you're
virtually
saying
free.
some real shit. I think I replied. I mean, I didn't say anything. I just kind of co-signed whatever. I forget what you said. But if you got,
It's about the managers. Like, artists think that they want a manager until, they find a good one, and the good one doesn't always say yes.
yeah. So if you got some real shit to say that is gonna resonate with people, you can put it in a quote. I think LaRussell mixes in some quote. I think it's good on Instagram. They want you to mix up the style. They want you to use all their surfaces. They want you to post pictures. They want you to use the carousel. They want you to do reels.
Yeah.
Like, they want you to mix it up.
But see, the thing is, again, to the series part of it, it's like, it's easier for me to put content out there because I'm having this long form conversation, and then now I can cut that up online, right? So if an artist is doing something that's valuable to them, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It's just, to your point, like, it could be something that they have a genuine interest in. If that piece of content is 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even that in itself, you could clip that up.
Yeah.
15 different ways. And all of a sudden now you can, if you're posting every week, you got 15 posts for the week.
Yeah.
And that's actually, let's call it 45 posts, because you do one on Instagram, you do one on TikTok, you do one on Facebook. Don't sleep on Facebook. You do one on YouTube. Now you got 4 posts every single day across all these platforms.
You never know where things are gonna pop. I mean, it's a lot of platforms out there, but if you use, a scheduling tool like MetroCool,
I've never heard of that tool.
It's a lot easier to post on several different platforms at once.
Okay, I never even heard of that. I've heard I know Hootsuite.
Yeah, I mean, there's Hootsuite. There's I'm sure Sprout Social still exists.
Yeah.
We use MetroCool at Two Loss, but yeah, I understand that a lot of artists hate the content stuff.
Yeah.
But like I say, in every era, there's going to be things that you didn't want to do, right? Like, back in the day, if you would have had to, like, do open mics, and you would have had to maybe wait downstairs and wait for the A&R person to come out of and slang your CD or get your demo to them, or you used to have to slang CDs out of your trunk. Like, if you're not doing content today, then you wouldn't have done those things back in the day. And whatever the next thing's going to be, like, there's always shit that you don't want to do, that you have to do to be successful in something like me, or to be successful in anything. There's always going to be something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So if you're only doing the things you want to do, you're going to have access to very few careers.
Somebody said to me the other day, I just told them what, like, I was the music we were working on, and they're like, "You're living the dream," and I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I love it, but it looks shiny.
Yeah.
But when you're in it,
right,
there's a lot of shit that's going on, man.
For sure.
Ups and downs all the time. Like, yesterday, I had something happen, and it was like, what the fuck is going on? I can't really speak too much on it. I'll tell you off camera, but it was just like a situation in the business where we're like, this is not good. How did this happen? And then 30 minutes later, I get some of the best news that I've probably gotten about this podcast in a minute. But I can't get too high or I can't get too low, because then that's like where you crash and burn when that happens, right? You can't get too excited. But I think that also just comes with the experience in this business. Now, don't get me wrong, I celebrate my wins. Like, I like to have a good time and celebrate it with the people that I work with and the people that I love. But you definitely got to do your best to
get right back to it. Celebrate for a little bit and get right back to it.
Right back to it.
Indeed.
Now, so when you talk about the part where it's like you want to do things you got to do things in this business that you don't really want to do. How do you balance that, especially from like an independent side, and when you had a label, how do you balance the commercial success part of it from like with the creative control that an artist wants to have in their career?
I mean, at our label, like, cats got to do, I mean, I probably vetoed 1 thing, 2 things.
Yeah.
Even stuff I let fly, like Hop had a song that made me cringe every time he performed it.
Okay. Which one was that?
It was called Ill Mind 5.
Uh,
Because he had a lot of white fans, and a lot of them gravitated towards him because some of the things that he was saying in his songs.
okay.
And he says something like, how come black people gotta be the only ones that can't evolve? Some fighting and playing basketball. And I was, bro, it just made me cringe every time he performed that song in front of a large ass audience. Like, I just,
Full of white people.
yeah,
Yeah.
because, Hop grew up pretty sheltered. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't really get out that much, kind of stayed in his room, make music, with skateboards, stuff like that. And I told him, I was like, look, bro, if you were just around me more and the people I hang out with, like, you would never thought to come up with a dumbass lyric like that. So, but I ain't gonna.
That's the creative control you gave him.
That's his story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what his thoughts.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see because again, a lot of white fans from the Midwest. It would have been interesting for Funk Volume to exist during Trump.
Okay.
Because I'm sure there were a lot of. I mean, our fan base got a lot more diverse as we grew.
Yep.
Especially with Dizzy. Dizzy brought a different kind of energy, and Jaren. But I'm sure there were a lot of Trump fans in our audience for sure.
Yeah.
Hop's audience for sure.
Future Trump fans.
Yes. So it would have been interesting for me and like how I would have like handled that or been,
Were you guys ever thinking of getting on the charts? Was that like an active goal for you guys as an independent label, or not so much?
It was. I mean, we charted, not like super high.
Yeah, but were those goals? Were those benchmarks?
Never. It was never like we didn't even like we found out like Hop because Hop had 2 songs that went gold, and we probably found out. We probably realized like a lot later than we like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Than most. No,
Yeah.
Because at a label, you're that's an immediate conversation or phone call if that happens.
Yeah. So it
Okay.
wasn't. As long as the fan base continued to grow, the numbers were going in the right direction on socials. That's what's most important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Because that, I mean, as for an independent artist and label, that's what identifies the revenue. To be honest, like
Right.
at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As long as the business was growing every year, but we had other things like we had 3 consecutive freshman covers.
Yeah.
I can't say that too many independent labels could say that.
3.
Yeah, because Hop, Dizzy, and Jaren won it and got on there in consecutive years.
Oh, I see. Oh, the label did. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
So we definitely started getting press. That was one of the reasons that we wanted to work with Warner, and we eventually signed a label service to deal with them, is we just thought that they can help, just help
Expand
on the
the
PR
brand.
side of things.
Oh, okay. That's how you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons.
Radio.
We didn't really make radio music. However, we were positioning ourselves for if and when we did, because they started putting the guys on some like radio tours, not really to get a song in heavy rotation, but just to start building those relationships.
Yeah.
Right. So when we did have a song, they would,
How important was that?
You
never seen. I get that.
Again,
I get
it didn't
that.
exist long enough for us to figure it out. If we started getting a couple records that did go to radio, that's a game changer.
Right, but so you were building to that,
Yeah,
building those relationships.
starting to build that foundation for sure.
Yeah, yeah, man. You still killed it though, in my opinion.
So we did. I mean, we did our thing, and I definitely was more upset about it. A few years after the crash and burn, but I'm more excited now about the stuff that I'm doing with Bigg Jah.
Yeah.
So, I guess kind of had to go through that to get here.
And how did you renew that passion, man? Like, how were you able to get back to it?
I mean, it took a while. I was probably in a darker space than I cared to because it was so public, and Hop was doing some like ridiculous shit, like just dragging my name through the mud and just telling all kind of lies. So yeah, it was rough. It was rough because in this industry, it's like you have, well, in any industry, you have weak ties, you have strong ties, right? Like the people that really know me, I wasn't worried about it because they know me. But in this industry, you have way more weak ties, right? People that they know you, but they don't really know you like that.
Yeah.
So when they hear Hop
like
say
hearsay,
something negative,
yeah.
you don't even know like if they believe it, if they don't. So it's like I was just in a stage of like paranoia of like, what are people thinking? This person didn't call me back.
I get that.
Is it because they saw Hop's video? Like you start thinking about a bunch of stuff when you have all these weak ties of like why people are doing certain things or not doing certain things. Oh, it must be because he saw the Hop video or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they just might be with family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just never know.
What brought you to the place to where you're at now as well, where you just give so much free game and education?
That's always been a part of what we do. Even if you look back, like because I didn't have anybody to turn to. As I was learning, we were sharing, and again, that's why we built. I think that's part of the reason why we had a lot of artists that followed what we did. They were fans of Hop, but they also loved the information that we shared. I held 2 Funk Volume virtual conferences in like 2013, 2014. Basically, it's the same thing I do with the Music Entrepreneur Club.
Really?
Except I would get people to share virtually. Like, again, as we were learning, we were sharing. So it's always been a part of, even when I got laid off in order to pay my own bills while Funk Volume was getting up and running. I was a substitute teacher, and I did like some side consulting gigs.
Oh, no shit.
So it's always been just kind of a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so important for artists to learn, because at the end of the day, I know everybody can't do this, right? And if you can't do this, I want you to find out sooner rather than later. And I think you having the information gets you to that point. Because, I mean, you can pivot your life at any point, but it's a lot easier to do that if you're younger. So I'd rather you find out at 25 that music's not in your cards than 45 or 35,
Or even the flip side of that is you might not know that you have the skill set. They hear you speak and they're like, I relate. I actually have a lot of the same skill sets that person does. And it says, oh, wait, maybe I can operate in this business.
I can't tell any one person. You have to make the decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm giving you the information. What you do with it is on you. It might encourage you to go harder and get to where you want to be in music, or you might realize, damn, I didn't know that's what it was like. I'm gonna go, be a dentist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But let's make these decisions sooner rather than later.
Oh, it don't pay that much. Like, not everybody's making millions in this motherfucker.
Yeah. So when you know what you're, so that's what I would typically say. But then I do recognize that, and it's kind of what happened to us. Like I did benefit from being ignorant to some extent because. Like we just kept working. We just kept working, just kept chipping away. What I'm about to say might sound a little hypocritical to what I just said, because, if you told me that I had to do everything that I did to get Funk Volume to where it was,
you wouldn't have done it.
I don't know.
I think you still would have.
I don't. Compared to what my options were, like at the time, like again, I it's a little less risky for me because I worked in corporate, I got an MBA, I could do so many other things like easily.
Yeah.
So if you would have told me at that time, like you gonna have to ride around. You're gonna have to drive these cats around the country and be their fake security guard and sell merch and tour manage and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Fake
versus
security, shit, bro. I was fake security for years.
versus, you know, going back and making 150, eventually, you know, maybe starting another bit. I would have eventually started some kind of business. I don't know. I just don't know what it would have been in.
Yeah, really. I don't know you that well, but it to me from when I'm hearing you talk, it seems like I think you would have. Again, I don't know you that well, but I get the impression because you like a good challenge. It seems like you like to be stimulated.
I mean, once I lock in, I'm locked in. We're gonna figure this out.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what makes a good manager. You know what I mean? Like once you lock in, like it's on my mind constantly. Like how can we elevate?
You ever have issues balancing that? I ask that from a personal place because it's be on my mind all the time.
Yeah, I would say no, but my wife might have a different answer. I would say,
enough.
you know what I'm saying? Like, but my wife is amazing. She never gets, she allows me to work. You know what I'm saying?
That's great. That's key.
Yeah, and I typically bring my laptop everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So I even had it on my honeymoon. So I mean, that might sound crazy, but you know, it's just always thinking, man. How can we, get to that? Because I'm not where I want to be now. You know what I'm saying? Until, I was up at 2:00 last night, drafting contracts for the writers of the shows that we're creating. So I'm not at a point where I can just hire people to do all that stuff yet.
Got you.
I mean, the lawyer drafted the initial template, but I have to
You got to review it. You got to look at it, make sure.
And I have to, there's multiple, right? Yeah, and just make it specific to each writer that we have, each actor that we have, each producer that we have. So I'm up, still doing that kind of stuff.
Is that world? You find it harder or easier because there's more structure? I mean, there's more pieces, right, to putting together a comedy show. Right, it's a whole production.
I find it easier only because of the relationship that I have with Jah.
Okay,
that's a game changer. Like the relationship I have with him is way different. Like Jah would never dodge my calls. Hop would. Makes everything take a lot longer, and it makes me a lot more mad. It's like, bro, I'm over here working for you. You. Why are you dodging my calls? Like, I'm trying to help you get to the next level in your career.
Right.
Like, why are you missing flights on purpose? Like this PR, this PR was set up for you. It's like your album's about to come out. Why are you missing a flight? Like Jah would never do these things.
Yeah.
Like there's just much more of a mutual respect. So it doesn't have, to me, as of now, I don't have enough experience in to compare like industry. I think there's more money in television and film, for sure. To me, I'm just comparing the relationship. That's the game. That's the big difference.
Yeah. The big difference between the two. Interesting. I didn't even think about the TV side of things. For me, when I think of TV, I don't know. I'm always trying to like see what's going on in terms of like what's the new medium. And if I think about film and television, I feel like in many ways it's like a dying sport almost. But maybe I'm wrong. I might be completely ignorant.
It's just going to streaming, just like because now, and YouTube is, I think YouTube is the biggest streamer on TV.
Yeah.
So
when we're talking about that, that's different. I'm thinking about traditional television broadcast, film, like.
Nah. So again, just going back to how we monetize, it's for our web series, which are really TV series, because every episode is 25 minutes long, and we typically do 10 episodes. So brand sponsorship, YouTube revenue, direct to fan revenue, and then Tubi.
It's 5 streams.
Yeah, and then I feel like there's gonna be a lot more, and YouTube is making some changes to cater more towards like premium long form content.
Right, I've seen that. Like, especially because everybody's watching it on their smart TVs now, right? So
Yeah.
they're actually putting up, what somebody would say a thumbnail, but it's looking a lot more theatrical. Like
Yeah.
and I think if I understand correctly, YouTube is developing an algorithm so you can have it like more episodic, season type.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
It's gonna look more Netflixy.
Yes. Yes.
So there's gonna be more opportunities for exactly what we're doing, and I think it's only a matter of time before Ja gets his opportunity, just like Issa did.
Okay. Yeah.
But until then, we have a great way to monetize what we're doing.
Yep.
We just have to get more content out the door and figure out how to structure internally so that we can accomplish that, and then we can start also investing in other creators.
Yep. How do you identify a creator or somebody that you want to work with?
Well, Ja to me is like the Tyler Perry of the YouTube space. Like he works with so many creators, and he's given a lot of people have built their platforms like through Ja.
Okay.
So we've come across so many different people. Like there's definitely people that we've identified that, if Ja just wants to direct and not be the lead, like we can have this person be the lead. We can start investing in this person.
Oh, he's multifaceted like that. He directs it. Okay.
Yeah, he directs it. Yeah, he went to school for. He went to film school.
Okay.
So we not just gorillas running around with iPhones and stuff. Like he got legit cameras. Like I was on set today because we're shooting the next season. His biggest series is called The Lesbian Homie.
Okay. Okay.
So we're shooting season 4 of The Lesbian Homie. I was on set today, and he got the gaffers, the sound people. Like it's a legit operation.
Okay. Admittedly, I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
But I'm
No,
going
it's all
to.
good.
I'm
All
get
good.
familiar.
No, I mean I don't expect we're not Kevin Hart status yet, so I don't expect people to be. But Ja community he's got like 1.8 million subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's amazing.
So and he's a big guy, so he gets noticed everywhere we go.
Maybe I do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, everywhere we go, he gets noticed. Like he likes to go to boxing matches. Like when we go to boxing matches, it literally takes us like 30 minutes to get to our seats because so many of those folks love what he does.
Okay, wow.
But yeah, I think we're close. I think we just got to do more. We just have to figure out how to get more content out the door and be more active.
That's amazing, man. So now you're saying that you can identify a lot of creators because there's a lot of people that are coming through your avenues, right? But what does it make you want to work with that person, though?
I'm starting to just being around. So another mistake that I made with Funk Volume is that I didn't come in with music experience. They called me the business guy. And I accepted that. I kind of I am the business guy. I don't really know shit about music. However, over time, you learn. But I threw that card away from the jump. Mm-hmm. So I was never really respected as for
your ear and taste.
A&R, because over time, I'm the one interacting with the fans. I see which lyrics people are quoting. I'm at every show. I see when the fans are tapping in, tapping out. So when you're around it so much and you get so much direct feedback from the fans, my opinion should carry some weight.
Absolutely.
But because even I leaned into just being the business guy in the beginning, I was never able to kind of get that back.
Okay.
Right? So the same thing is happening, I think, with Jaws. I'm around these folks. I'm starting to get an eye for who can really act. Mm-hmm. And then you're just looking for people that are good people and easy to work with.
And they're respecting your observations on this. Okay.
Yeah, it's different. It's a much different.
Sure.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. People respected me when I ran Funk Volume.
Sure.
It's just that the artist, that A&R card, I kind of threw out the window because I didn't think I'd need it.
Okay.
Yeah. But in every other way, I was respected, especially other people that came around. I don't drink at shows. I present myself very professionally and make sure we get shit done, especially when we're on the clock.
Yeah.
So kind of developing that same type of presence with Ja, but we're starting to see Like, who's serious? Who's really serious about this shit?
Right.
Because we're serious.
And what makes somebody serious at this shit?
They're consistent on their own. They're dedicated to the crap. People are taking acting classes. Because in this space, there's a huge, like what we've noticed, or what I've noticed is there's probably about, in the lesbian homie, there's probably in total about 25 actors.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different characters that we need for it. And what I notice is, like, some of these folks are more influencers than they are actors, right? The influencers, they want to be in the show because they know it's going to bring them more followers, right? The actors are dedicated to the actual craft, right? So we shoot, the days are long, like 12-hour days. The influencers might show up late, again, because they're not really dedicated to the craft. They may not be prepared. They might forget their lines. They're not really trying to act like that. So, we have to do a better job at identifying the people that, like their long-term goal is to be in films and really love acting. So it's identifying those people that, easy to work with, dedicated to the craft, professional. A lot of the same qualities that I would look for in a music artist today.
Yeah, well, right. That's why I'm asking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, to your point, like, I can find out pretty fast whether somebody's serious about the business or not, especially if I'm communicating with them, right? Because like, I can do a simple test as just being like, if you're gonna come to me and you're gonna ask me questions, that's one thing, and I appreciate that, right? But then if I go and we exchange contacts, for example, right? And I say, you know what you should look into? You should look into like, okay, you really like singers? Okay, go and study Whitney, go study Diana Ross, go study Christina Aguilera, come back to me, tell me what you know. If they come back to me and they tell me like, yo, I really can understand, like, I hear nuances here and stuff, and not just to impress me, but they're like, they love this shit. You know what I mean? You're gonna be able to identify that.
That's exactly how I get some people to like go away. Like, I do what you did, just kind of put the ball in their court.
Yeah.
You put the ball in their court, most people won't follow up.
Bro.
And I'm like, cool, I ain't tripping. I didn't really want to meet with you anyway because it's clear that you would have wasted my time.
So let me tell you, right now I'm hiring for an administrative assistant because I know I need the help and I got to scale, right? I put out, there's this really good book. It's called Buy Back Your Time, and I got it from this book. And it's basically saying what you want to do is you want to cast a wide enough net, but have holes in the net so the bad fish can swim away. So I put out this call on social media, on Instagram, looking for an administrative assistant, Toronto or LA. This is what I need. Yeah. The first thing I do is, my first test in that is the subject line. And the subject line is, you have to put in the subject line to this email, and it's admin assist role. Cats, I got like 60 or 70 people who got that wrong. And what I need you to do is I need you to pay attention to detail. That's the role of an administrative assistant. You know, 60, 70 people get that wrong. That's your first test, you failed. The second test is, if you get that right, it sends you an automatic email that now gives you a template that says, like, appreciate you for applying, fill out this Google form. But I also, and this is from the book as well, which is really good, it's like, it says, I need a video that's 3 minutes long, because this is an entry-level position, right? It's a 3-minute long video. Here's 5 questions, no more than 3 minutes.
I'm already knowing most young folks are tapping out.
Bro,
I'm already...
I got like 150 emails, and I would say 35 to 40 actually went through the whole process. But guess what? Those are the people I need to talk to.
Right.
Everybody else, like, cool. Like, you say you're the best and you're this, that, and the third, but you can't follow certain instruction. But then, now I'm telling you to provide the video, and you don't want to do that? Do you really want this?
Yeah. No, I'm already knowing. Like, at our age, it's so easy to identify the young people that are gonna win. And, and those are the people that I prefer to pour into. Yeah. Because some people just don't got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, man.
Hey.
What else you got going on, man?
I mean, that's it. So I have. Let me think about this. I got the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast, the Independent,
which is dope. You guys, everybody should take that.
That's weekly. The Independent Living podcast is just sporadic when I have it. Obviously, my role at Two Loss, my role with Bigg Jah, Game from the Gods. We definitely want to continue to do that this year. I'm not sure what other cities we're gonna hit.
That's a live event.
Yeah,
You
that's
guys
a
are just
live
doing
event.
your touring. Yeah.
And then I just hosted another live event called Creative Currency, where we hosted a lot of the top Black creators here in LA.
Okay.
And it wasn't to try to box people out, but we wanted to elevate the conversation because it wasn't going to be about like, how do I get my first 100 followers? Like everybody in the room had at least tens of thousands of followers. And we needed to have like a different level of conversation.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I want to bring that to other cities too, where there's, like Atlanta, where there's like big pockets of Black creators. So that's something else. And yeah, that's enough for me, man.
That's a lot on the plate.
Yeah,
man.
I'm good. Baby on the way. So
Congratulations on
Thank
that,
you.
man. That's amazing. First baby, as you mentioned. But listen, I really appreciate the time here, man.
My pleasure.
Love having this conversation. I hope you come back, man.
Yeah.
Multiple times. We're in the
Let's
same
do it.
city, man.
Let's do it.
Appreciate you.
Indeed.
All right.
All right.
Yes, sir.
For sure.